deliverables of a department or a task. So, what are deliverables to begin with? Deliverables are basically any task or any problem that has been given to you or your department to be solved or completed by a certain amount of time. So there's 4 stages to completing a deliverable or a task, and that is initiation, planning plus organizing, execution, and closing. And I'll go over into each stage in specific detail. So, initiation of a deliverable. How do you get things going? Well, you first want to identify the problem or identify the task that's at hand. And then after you identify that, you want to understand the purpose of that task. What is the reason why we're doing this task, or why are we solving this problem? Does it hold great value? If it does hold great value, you'll understand that you need to pay a lot more attention to it compared to other deliverables that you have on your checklist as a department. So based on your purpose, you'll understand how important the task is, and based on that, you could also understand the amount of quality you need to put into it. And then after that, you also need to understand how does it fit into the bigger picture. Once you understand the purpose, you'll figure out that essentially my one task impacts a bigger solution, or my one solution to a problem impacts the decision or fate of a bigger picture. And that bigger picture is our team. So let's say you're a department and you're in the Department of Finance, and your task is to finish a sponsorship letter. And that letter is, if you want to analyze it, the purpose of the task, why are we writing the letter, the sponsorship letter? Well, we want to have sponsors that are going to sponsor a team. It could be either sponsors through mentorship, it could be either sponsors that will provide money or provide some sort of product, food, art, anything, any sort of branding. So at the end of the day, they'll give something to us. So the purpose of the task is that we have a lack of a certain material and we want to gain that material by writing this letter. And then how does it fit into the bigger picture? Well, if we get the money, if we get the proper mentorship, we'll eventually come up with a better ranking later on while in competition. Now moving on from initiation to planning and organizing. Well, once you're done with identifying the problem or the task that's at hand, you want to make sure that you look at what solutions are available to me, and you figure out which solutions will I implement to solve this problem. So an example would be in design, the design team. The design team has a problem of essentially getting, let's say, a ball into a basket. That's their problem. What solutions are there? Well, you could pick the ball up, put it into the basket. You could shoot the ball into the basket. You could bounce the ball into the basket. There's many solutions, but which solution should I use? And that is essential to understanding what plan you have, what plan you're gonna use to execute. So if I choose the solution of bouncing the ball into the basket, what will I need? And that moves on. And that moves on to our next bullet point in planning an organization, which is how will I carry out my plan? So essentially, you want to make sure that you have a plan that is not only listing all the things you need to do, but also listing how you're going to do that in a certain amount of time. And organizing time is essential because you're giving a general time to finish that task. And in that general time, your job as a member of the team, or let's say if you're a leader, whatever the case, is to break down that time into an even more specific timeline, understanding that I have to get this portion of, let's continue with the design example. I want to make sure that I'm done with my sketch by Monday, and by Tuesday, my sketch should, from my sketch, I'll create a list of materials I'm going to need to create the robot, and then you literally create a microscopic timeline that derives from the bigger timeline. So essentially, that's what organizing time is all about. And while you're doing all this, you also want to inform your department leader about what's going on, because at the end of the day, when they're evaluating you and grading you on your work, as if they know about what you're doing and if they know that you're actually working every day, there are high chances that you're going to get a better grade, and there are high chances that they'll appreciate your effort that you're putting into your work. Moving on to execution. Well, execution is probably the simplest of all the 4 stages to delivering a deliverable, which is basically get your tasks finished on time according to your plan and microscopic timeline. Make quick contingency decisions. This is important. You're a student, we're students, we're all students, and we know that some things come up out of nowhere. Let's say you have a volleyball game tomorrow and that got canceled, you have extra time. Or let's say you have to make up for a test the day after tomorrow. You lost time. So based on your how your life treats you, I guess, you need to make small contingency decisions that will basically evaluate that, okay, I have to get this task done by this date, but I want to make sure that other external factors will impact my timeline, so I have to take that into account as well. And also continue on informing your leader about your progress, and try to finish early if you can, because the earlier you finish, the higher grade you'll get, and it's just beneficial for everybody because everybody gets extra time to do their work if you finish early. And lastly, the last stage is closing. Basically, during the closing phase, you track what happens to your work. So let's say you're writing, let's continue with the finance example of I'm making a letter. Where does that letter go? How does that impact my department? So if that letter was approved, do I actually get the money? How much money am I getting? Self-reflect. So then later on, if you have to do the same task again, you'll know how to do it better. And at the end of the day, appreciate your work. Now, that's just essentially 4 stages to delivering a deliverable. Hi, today we'll be going over types of deliverable relationships. So there's 4 types of relationships, which is start to finish, start to start, finish to finish, and finish to start. These 2 are very much similar, but have a slight difference. And essentially, these 4 relationships are characterized based on the relationship literally between 2 variables, 2 deliverables. And let's go over each one of them. So start to finish, which is essentially a relationship where it's not exactly parallel, but it's more of a series type of relationship, which I'll be going over as well. Let's say we have 2 departments. We have the strategy department and the design department. Hector from the strategy department has the responsibility of coming up with a list of robot restraints, which will basically list the weight limit that the robot has to be within, the height limit, how much power each motor should have. So basically details that give information to Aldo, who will use that information to come up with a design which is appropriate according to the game rules. So as Hector comes up with a game analysis and robot restraints list, what Aldo will do is take that information and process it and basically extract the information needed out of that and implement it on his tasks. So in order for Aldo to start his job, he relies on Hector to finish his job. So it's a start to finish relationship where Aldo has to start in order for Hector to finish. In the case of start to start, let's say we have an example of the same case of 2 departments, but just 2 different departments, where we have the marketing team and the finance team. And Lily from the marketing team, she has to essentially organize and execute events that will make money, so fundraising events. And what Valeria's job is that she has to give enough money to Lily when she needs it in terms of costs, and then also take back money when Lily makes money during fundraisers and make sure that there's a profit. So both of these individuals from the two departments have their own responsibilities, and both of their responsibilities, or tasks in this case, are running in parallel. So they're parallel, meaning that majority of their task is running together on the same timeline. I mean, it's on the same timeline, but they're running together, side by side. So as these guys are parallel in tasks, as Lily comes up with events and makes money, Valeria literally understands, takes in the transactions, files the transactions that are being made, and essentially she just makes sure that there's a return on investment. So that's a start to start. So you have Lily, who starts her job, and Valeria, who starts her job, and both of them rely on each other to start their job at the same time. So finish to finish. Okay, so this is an example, not of two departments, but let's say this is the scenario of an example where it's within one department. And let's say we have Anthony Lara, who's in finance, and so is Alejandra, who's also in finance. And they depend on each other on the fact that Lara, she has to finish a sponsorship packet, which includes a list of things needed and a list of things wanted. And that's just simply his job. And Alejandra, on the other hand, who's been already continuing her work from a long time of making sure that everything is put together into one bigger packet, so then they could give it to sponsors. So her work, her task includes the results from Lara's task. So as Lara finishes his work, that helps Alejandra finish her work. So this is a finish-to-finish relationship, where in order for Alejandra to finish her work, she requires Lara to finish his work. And let's say it doesn't. We have another scenario of finish to start, and that scenario, not just that scenario. Any of these scenarios don't have to be just between two departments like these two, but like Hector and Aldo, and Lily and Valeria. But they could also be between people within departments and also people that are not even in the team. So an example would be external stakeholder or individual, which is Mr. Demopoulos and Costanza. An example of finish to start would be that in order for Costanza to start her inventory organization, which is her job in finance, she has to organize all the pieces and parts and tools that we have. In order for her to start her job, Demopoulos has to make the order from the school accounts to get the stuff here, get the inventory that's been bought here to the school. So we essentially have Demopoulos has to finish his task in order for Costanza to start her task of inventory organization. So essentially we have 4 types of deliverable relationships, and each deliverable has either one, a parallel relationship, or a series relationship. And series essentially means that they could be overlapping a bit, but majority of the task is done by a step-by-step method, whereas parallel is that both tasks are being done at the same time majority of the time. And that for you is types of deliverable relationships.